Hi everyone, thanks so much for being here this evening to the first of what we hope will become many business summits. And quite frankly, this is really a legislative and business summit so that we are accommodating both. In this economic time, in these times we've never seen, quite frankly, businesses and governments are in a quandary. What do we do? How do we do it? And how quickly can we get it done? Problem is, we all have so many differences in opinions. Of course, some of that is partisan, some of it not. But the question still remains, how do we solve it? How do we work with it? And how do we affect the changes that are positive changes on our society? That's the reason for coming together tonight. We have very few rules, but the major number one rule is everyone who's speaking gets to finish what they say without interruption. If you feel you have something really important to say and you're getting hot under the collar, hang on to it. We have appropriate times to be heard and to have your opinion said. There doesn't need to be any anger or name calling or anything of that type or sort. We're here to work together. We're all partners in our Round Lake area, in our communities. So let's just keep those things in sight. Working with us tonight for this summit, as you can see, we have two tables. They are not separated for reason. They are separated simply because they want to face you, they want to face me, the moderator, and they want to help themselves to give you the best answer that they can. On my right side, we have Mayor Terry Lumpkin from Round Lake Heights, Mayor Linda Soto from Haynesville, Mayor Jim Dietz from Round Lake, Mayor Rich Hill from Round Lake Beach, and Sandy Cole, our state representative. To my left, we have some very brave souls, thank you. But these are people you're going to be glad we're sitting here. To my left, we have Jennifer Bomsey, okay, from Sign Central, Jack Budacavoli from Big Jacks, John Tomasak from Artrageous, and Bill Obanoff from Superwash. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the first question. These questions were pretty much brought about by the panel that put this summit together. And these are the questions that we are hearing as the most important out in society right now. So we're going to start here and use these as jumping points to go further if the discussion goes that way. So first I'm going to start with our legislative panel to my right. And each of you will get a couple of minutes, try to keep it brief, to answer the question and hand it over to the next person. The first question is, how does local government help to build, grow, and sustain local and area businesses at this time?
There's a shut-off switch on it. And how do you feel that your village or this state currently best serves small businesses?
Well, for the village of Round Lake Heights, we're the smallest of the communities. So this question is a little bit harder for us since we only probably have about 20 businesses in our community. It's pretty hard for us to sustain growth when we haven't had any in many years. We do have a piece of property, a couple pieces of properties that we're going to intend on growing. We had a good shot at it in 08, and everything kind of collapsed, and the developers kind of went on the wayside. We hope that it comes back. We'll continue to try to grow these pieces of property. It would be a fundamental for us if we were able to grow it. It's a good project for us. It's just right now there's no developers on the table. We look for the state's help for our small businesses, for them to give some tax incentives. Obviously, for us, we just can't give them too much on our end just because of our size. So I'm sure the other communities are going to have much more to say on this. I just don't have too much. Thanks.
Haynesville's a rather small town as well. In fact, I think we used to be the smallest, but we passed up the heights a little bit. But we have similar issues, as Mayor Lumpkins mentioned. A lot of our commercial outlets that came from the residential development are sitting vacant still. However, we have been working on getting improvements further to those properties, getting water and sewer closer. One of the few positives going on right now today is there's a lot of programs out there right now that municipalities can borrow money for almost no interest. And so we recently did a water main extension along 120 so that when the market does come back, we have properties that are ready to go. The days of expecting somebody to come in and do everything for you aren't there. And if you think that, you're wrong. As far as our current businesses, one of the luxuries we do have by being a small town, it's much easier for us to communicate. I personally have been hand delivering on a yearly basis the business license renewal applications. I go in, I talk to the owner or manager of the establishment, ask them how it's going, not only how their business is going, but how they're being serviced by the police, what do they feel about the traffic in the area, and I get a lot of valuable input and just try to help them whenever we can. We promote our businesses on our village website and also through our monthly newsletter that goes out with our utility bill whenever we can. We're not looking to sell advertisement, it's just promoting good businesses that have something to offer.
As far as helping out existing businesses, I think the main thing is that we try to keep up with our infrastructure, keep our roads in as good a shape as we can. As all the other villages, that's been a struggle to do. We work with Lake County DOT with proposals to reroute Cedar Lake Road through our downtown, hoping to attract additional businesses that bring more people to our existing businesses as well. We've supported the 53-120 route with hopes of attracting more business. The idea of the more traffic you have coming through town, it will help future businesses and draw additional customers to our existing businesses. We participated in the ICSC conference. Mark Huber, administrator, has been down there the last 2 days on that. Trying to keep contacts open with potential business partners, and hope that we can develop things as we go that will help everybody out. I do have to apologize. I do have a meeting to be at for SMC in Libertyville at 7 o'clock this evening, so I'm going to have to move shortly. We're going to probably try to get some input, so if we have questions I can follow up and answer later on. So we could write those down for me. I'll try to follow up on it.
You hear a lot about what politicians are going to do to help create business, and really that's not our job. Our job is to create an environment where business can thrive. That's what we've tried to do in Raleigh Beach. We try to keep regulations low, keep our tax rate low, try to improve the processes when people come in for permits, which are done overnight. A lot of them can't be done overnight. They have to go through a process to make sure they're safe and equitable. That's a lot of what we've done. Our downtown right now is undergoing a major development. The county and the state have stepped up. They're redoing Route 83 and the Rollins Road. It's been a mess for about a year and a half. But then once that mess is cleaned up, it's going to create an atmosphere there will just thrive. And I think you'll see the whole border just bloom once it's all done. That's the kind of investments you need to make in your community in order to make it business friendly. You can't have your sign ordinance that's so restrictive that business can't put out a sign to advertise their goods. Same thing with the way you do merchandise in your parking lots. And we've done that in Raleigh Beach here. It's been very good for us. We've been very successful at that, and we hope to continue. I'm on the Chamber of Commerce. I attend all the meetings, put myself available to the business members that come out to the meetings. And we have some good discussions sometimes. Sometimes there's things we can resolve, and sometimes there's things we can't resolve. But we'll always try and work with the people as best we can.
My job at the state is to try to work with all the municipal partners on issues that affect the residents within all the towns, particularly in my district. But if there's one thing the state can do to really help small family-owned businesses in northern Illinois, actually mostly in Lake County, is to reverse that 67% income tax increase, which is a job killer, and it's very detrimental to small family-owned businesses. That tax increase is not going away. It's going to reduce between now and 2025, but it actually is an increase. And I think the best way that I can help you is to try to get that tax reversed so we're back to that flat tax that we had before that was very helpful, I think, to small and independent businesses.
Thank you very much.
Try this again. On my left, we have the businesses, and your question to start with is, how would you like local governments to further help local businesses succeed in these times? And what action can your business take to enhance your relationship with your local government?
I guess more hands-on maybe. Well, we're kind of left out in the cold here. I mean, as small businesses, it's just kind of, you know, the ups and downs of like it's almost just trying to stay open now. I guess if encourages, I mean, I almost look at Round Lake, Haynesville, all this being almost one community. There's not as many of us printers and everything. So maybe if we can encourage, you know, our municipality, other businesses maybe to shop more local, maybe put out the word of shopping local, and even like because of all the people that are coming in sometimes are more franchise types, which are more corporate, maybe encouraging the corporations to maybe take a look at us and saying like, why don't you come and check out our vendors? You know, we would love to have you. We'll give you some tax breaks, whatever you guys do to bring them in. I don't know that part. But I mean, maybe to say, but we encourage you to look at our small businesses. They're good businesses. They've been around for a long time. Maybe you can give some of your dollars to them, and then in turn, they'll use you too. Like whether it be, I don't know, any type of, it's just a lot of times in areas like this, I notice it's more corporate companies coming out here and building. But that doesn't do much for us because they're always getting their stuff from other areas and then they bring it in. So we kind of don't make out. And us small businesses aren't opening right now. So that's for us just because we deal with commercial, not residential clients. So if somebody works with residential, I guess they're on another area. But that's fine.
Being a new small local food restaurant, you know, we've struggled trying to, you know, work with just the community. That's our biggest, you know, customer base that comes in. We don't draw, like, I'm part owner of a sign company also. We don't draw a lot of customers from other suburbs. We try to. We try to, you know, refer places. We try to be that, you know, business that, you know, everybody wants to try. So we do rely on a lot of the local villages, you know, to come in to patronize us, to help us grow, to show us different ways. I mean, we try to get involved. It's hard, you know, because me and my sister both run two businesses with our father, and it's difficult. You know, right now you're not able to hire a lot of people to do everything, so you're kind of like tied down, and you're the one that's got to do everything. So try to get involved with the community. We've done a lot of things with Sandy. I've worked with all the mayors that are on the panel, plus Sandy, in the past, and you know, I've built relationships and friendships over the years. So bringing a new business in 5 years ago, the restaurant, you know, it's just, I try to build this community as much as I can. I moved to this area back in '92, and every chance I get, you know, my biggest thing is, you know, patronizing and showing people this is a whole different community. I didn't grow up in Round Lake, and, you know, I try to patronize and show people that come up here, come see the different things. There's a lot of, you know, opportunities for businesses to grow up here.
Yeah, it's basically the, you know, a lot of what they said is encouraging people to do business locally. And I don't know how you would go about doing that, but there's a lot of entities in the area that don't necessarily always shop locally, or the internet's an easier way to do things, or everything is price-based. And I have some great relationships, like Jack said, with people in this room, with municipalities, with governments and schools, and so it's not something you want to get real specific about, but at the same time, more could be done to encourage different entities to stay local. The schools and the municipalities, they do a lot of stuff together. And a lot of schools try to do business locally, a lot of them don't. A lot of them just outsource. They don't encourage their teachers to shop locally. They just jump on the internet. It's the easiest way to do things. And in some cases, it's a price issue. And I don't think most small businesses mind if they're approached and they provide a price and somebody else has a much better price and they can't compete. Economics is always a factor, and most people understand that. But it's a lot of times you're never given the opportunity as a small business to even participate in the process. And that makes it hard for us. So I think any way to encourage businesses or schools or municipalities or whatever to try to stay locally and promote us businesses locally would be very good for us.
So many things are running through my mind right now, I don't know where to start, but I guess I could echo what everybody else at the table said, and what all of you know, we're having a hard time. The car wash business especially is absolutely horrible this year, the worst year I've seen since I've been in the business, starting back in 1998. Some of the things I was especially interested to hear what Sandy Cole had to say about the tax increase that we had this year. And it seems like Springfield has no qualms at all about just raise more money. There was a thing, and first of all, I got to say too, I do have the car wash here, but Jim Dietz would know me as his neighbor across the street because we're also in the auction business. So we provide services to municipalities all over the area, Lake County, McHenry County, southern Wisconsin, and into Cook County. And I think that adds a service. It gives the municipalities an outlet to sell used equipment and so on. I think we do pretty good at it. We had an auction last Saturday for the county, and it was quite successful. We registered 300 buyers. Prices were reasonably good for the economy that it is. The other thing is, I'd have to echo what these other folks said as far as encouraging people to shop locally, to buy locally. Now, we run specials every now and then, and that seems to bring out people, but there's such a fine line, such a fine margin on profitability there that there's only so much you can do. And I know people are already asking, when are you going to start your fall special? Well, that might not be as good as it has been in the past, so that's another problem. I got some other things that I guess will fall into play just a little bit farther down the line, but one thing, and again, it isn't so much what I think that I could do or we here could do, it's probably more toward what the municipalities can do for us. I love the Round Lake area. I lived in Vogel for a lot of years before I moved to Ingleside, so I feel I'm a suburbanite to Round Lake. But I can remember when I first went to the bank in Wakanda to get a mortgage when I was a young guy, and I had to fill out an application as to where I lived. And I put down my address was Round Lake. Well, I think it's still Round Lake yet to this day. And they said, oh, we're sorry, sir, we don't lend money to people that have a Round Lake address. I don't think they look at it that way today. Rich, would you agree?
Absolutely.
I think things have changed a lot over the years. So I'll say a couple other things that I have for just a little bit later on. But, we all got to keep working together, I think, and I'm glad to have this forum because it shows me that, yes, these people that are here are interested in our salvation too.
It's a good way to put it, our salvation. At this point in time, Mayor Dietz, I know you have to leave soon, so I'm going to give you one chance to do something before you leave. And that is, we're just going to have a quick rebuttal if there's something that you wanted to say about what was said from the business owners.
Oh, I agree.
Okay. Is there anyone on the government side that would like to make a rebuttal or make an addition to what's been said? And in that scope, you guys also get the same opportunities or anything you want to say back to the government officials? Please feel free.
I know this is being filmed, and a number of these businesses are actually within my legislative district, and I just wanted to mention that Big Jack's has the best Italian beef in all of That was a shameless plug, I'm sorry, but it's true. We concur.
And so we're going to move on to question number 2, and this time I'm going to start with the business panel. What tax issues do you experience currently that you would like to see the officials effectively change, and how? I know we did talk about the state level taxes. Perhaps you have a comment that you would like to make about local taxes.
I have some things I'd like to say. I didn't know what order we're supposed to go in here, but I think everybody would agree that taxes are a killer. My real estate tax on the car wash alone this year is up $2,000, which I had done some math here before I came over. That's just about a 61% increase over the last 5 years. Last year to this year alone, it's 16.5%. And we're on the hairy edge. When I said salvation before, I wasn't lying or trying to be funny. It's that serious right now. Without hanging out all my dirty laundry here, I can tell you that things are not good in the car wash business. And of course, we're at the bottom of the food chain. You know, we're the last thing that people need. They can get by without a car wash. They can't get by without food or gasoline and some of the other necessities. But car wash is on the bottom of the food chain. So anything that we can do to rein in real estate taxes would really be appreciated. I know some of you have tried some things that I admire. I know Haynesville, I think, outsourced your police department here a year or two ago. And I'm sure the people that were working there didn't think it was a good idea. But it seems to be, to me, the way to go as far as being efficient. I don't know. It's just my thought. I don't know any numbers. I don't have anything to work with there, but it seems like maybe we can do more of that somewhere down there. John, it's your turn.
Great.
If you don't have an opinion to make at this time, you can just pass the mic. That's fine too.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree taxes are high, and it's a lot of times it's out of some control. I've been very fortunate because I do rent, and my landlord has absorbed a lot of that as it has been going up. But I know personally where we live, taxes keep going up, and there's no relief there. So it's the same everywhere. The municipalities and libraries and everything is budgeted for so much money, and when property values go down, the state multipliers kick in, and they need that same amount of money. So where do they go? It all comes back to the community, whether it's businesses or the private citizens. So we're all affected by it. So the more thought that's put into it, the ways to make it better, it'll be better for everybody.
Can I jump back in on there a quick second? I don't know if you want a whole ton of statistics or whatever, but just a little point of reference. Our taxes are enough that I have to wash 7,172 cars just to pay the real estate tax. Pardon?
7,100?
72.
Well, with both of our properties, with Big Jack's and Site Central, we hear about it because our father takes care of all the tax portion of it. I mean, he's the one who makes us hear about it every month or every 6 months that the tax bill comes and says, hey, this is just ridiculous. We own a piece of property also in Arlington Heights, and we watched our taxes go up as the value of the building went down in half. We went from the $1.2 million building in Arlington Heights to a building that's worth $600,000. But our taxes were $36,000 a year. And it was disgusting. You know, this area, we bought the property where, the property we bought here, we bought the Big Jack's property back in 95, 96, and the taxes were good at the beginning. And then we purchased the property next door and just watched it quadruple, if not more. I mean, it's up 75% since we bought it. It's just, I just don't understand. I mean, property values are down, sales are down, and the property taxes are skyrocketing. I mean, cost of living. I mean, I have three children in high school, and all three will be in college soon. And I look at it and go, this is amazing. You know, how to afford taxes plus send 3 kids to college.
Yeah, just to reiterate, as he said with the taxes, ours have gone up like 75% more this year, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And I don't think that they're going to stop going up, so you can kind of jump on that and get this to kind of level out for us so that we can kind of get the business stable. Because right now, when your taxes go up, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay your credit cards now because you got to put things on credit card. I mean, it's just, you're just not making enough to make the ends meet at the end of the month. I mean, the math just doesn't work. So, right now, it's the small businesses, I think, are to the point that if we're open, it's such a huge accomplishment. But half of us are open sometimes for the wrong reasons. I mean, like, we want to keep trucking, but eventually it's like, you have one bad month and it's pretty scary. I mean, I know with the restaurant, we've got a couple, 3 bad nights, and we all start shaking. I know with the sign company, when the phone didn't ring today, which we've been thankfully very good this month, you get very scared because the taxes, I mean, if what Sandy says happens, all these tax cuts are going to be, that's just, I heard it on the way here, and I was just floored. That's not very much what they want to do to small businesses. They want to tax us on stuff on a level that, you have to make that much just to be in a small business. I mean, you even have employees. I mean, I don't know, I always thought, hey, didn't you give us a break on payroll tax maybe for a few months? That could help anything just to get it going. But that's another story.
We'll have rebuttal in just a moment. You want to let me know it's okay. From the legislative panel, the question to you is, how would you suggest to affect small business tax issues challenging them in this economic climate?
Okay. Well, I really feel bad for the businesses because obviously I grew up in a small business that's been in part of the community for a long time, and I see my father struggling to pay the taxes just like everybody else. And it's heartbreaking to see that some businesses, and I'm going to bring up my father, he has to stay open almost 24 hours a day just to try to make ends meet. He doesn't want to do it. He's 77 years old, but he has to do it if he wants to keep his property. So it is tough, and I feel bad for the business owners. But if you ever look, and I mean, I haven't, on the tax assessment that the villages do, it's such a small portion that the municipalities get on the tax bill. If you ever did break it down and look at it, for what we have to provide, where it's police, public works, office staff, and you're right, some municipalities are shopping it out. I mean, I've seen other municipalities, especially down farther south, do it very, very well. And that's the things that we've actually looked at in our municipality. We've downsized our police department quite a bit. And we continue to do it. But, on an average home, on our tax bill, we get a couple $100 a year from that home. But yet they're paying anywhere from $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year on taxes. So it is heartbreaking. I wish I had the answer for you guys. I wish I had the answer for my father. I don't have that answer. And I don't know where all his tax dollars go, but it's got to be a state or a federal issue that they're taking it. You got the schools, you got every taxing body that's on our bill that we have to look at on a yearly basis, and it's heartbreaking. And I feel for every one of you guys. I do.
And can I say something? Your father did build that business, right?
Yeah, he did.
I just wanted to clarify that.
My father and my mother.
There's some people think we don't build our own business.
Oh, okay.
Mayor Soto.
First, let me say ditto on Mayor Lufkin's sentiments to all the small businesses. I truly appreciate your struggles. And again, yes, as far as municipalities, we are a very small portion of your tax bill. I will tell you that the Village of Haynesville has taken great pains to make sure we have not increased our tax levy the last couple of years. We've tried to flatline it, which is not easy to do, because if you even know how that process goes, it's kind of backwards. That's one thing the state of Illinois needs to look at. I think there's a lot of reform that needs to be done in Illinois and how we calculate things or do things. And so my advice to the small businesses, and I'm there or will be there to support you, but we have to send a message to our state reps and our federal government about reform. Sandy mentioned that she's, adamant about getting this income tax turnaround, which I applaud her for. That needs to be addressed. A lot of this money is going to pensions, as we know, and I don't necessarily have a problem with pension, but I do have a problem with the way they've been handled and the fact that we have people collecting 2 or 3 pensions and also getting a significant increase in their salary a year or 2 before they're going to leave and collect their pension. Also, 70% of your tax bill goes to funding schools. And yes, education is important. I think we have great schools and great people on the boards, but I think Illinois needs to also take a look at other states that fund their schools differently. I don't think that having 70% of real estate tax bills funding schools is the way to go. That's always going to be a big bog down on everyone. So that's about it.
Everyone said it, the real estate tax is really the big bad wolf out there. Villages, we have 5, big 10% of what your tax bill is in real estate tax. We can control a little bit of that. Raleigh Beach is about 5%. We haven't raised our levy in over 3 years now, trying to maintain it. So we aren't increasing the tax on homeowners. Bill, what you said with your assessment, it sounds like your assessment may have gone up. Your assessment value?
It sounds like it did. I don't actually see the bill because the accountants pay that.
Okay. But if your tax bill went up that much, either you went down only a little bit, and everyone else went down a lot. The assessor plays a big role in that. That makes sure you have an assessor who knows what they're doing, and that they're going to assess properties fairly and equitably. It's easy to go out and say, let's make the businesses pay more and charge the residents less. That's easy to do. Is it the right thing to do? No. Businesses have 2 options then. They raise their prices to cover those taxes, and then you all pay more. It's a hidden tax. Or they just go out of business in some cases because they just can't afford the taxes. As many of you know, I work for a company that has 8 stores in Lake County, and the taxes vary wildly between them, as well as the assessments and the way they change annually. You can kind of tell by which assessors in what office who's going to nail the businesses and who's not, based on what their philosophy is. There's an interesting bill about the number of cars. Over 7,000 cars you have to wash just to pay your tax bill alone. That's like with our tax day. It used to be in March, then it was in April, and I think it's close to May or it's in May now. And then June. Geez, before you actually pay enough, all your money in taxes, you can actually keep the rest of the money here for the rest of the year. That's crazy. It should never be like that. Some of the issues that we face at the local level, though, as far as trying to control costs, are arbitrators. We talked about this, teachers' unions. We have other unions. We settled with one of our unions for reasonable wage increases, 40%, 1.5%, 2% over a 3-year period. That's a lot in today's market. We're just glad they settled with us. Another union took us to arbitration. Well, the arbitrator didn't like what we offered the other union. They thought it should be 50% higher as far as increases. So now we're stuck giving the other employees 50% higher raises just because that's the way the state of Illinois operates. I know Sandy's worked hard to change those things. She can't do it alone. And there's some people downstate that don't want to change those things. And that's the issue that we have up here, not just in Lake County, but across the state right now. And if anyone else has anything specific, I'll be glad to address that.
We're taking a lot of notes up here, thank you. What I'm worried about on the state level for you guys is that there's a lot of talk down in Springfield now of the service tax. And when we talk about changing, I thought I'd bring up, here's your property tax dollar. To give you an idea, and I brought up extra ones here. 60% to the schools, 9% to the city, 7% to the county, 3% to townships, parks, forest reserves, fire, and libraries. The state doesn't take property taxes. So there's an issue with equalized assessments that the state gets involved with, but we're not taking your property taxes, and you don't want us to, believe me. I don't even want to think about the state actually doing anything with property taxes. They just don't do things very well. But what I'm really worried about is that service tax, because every time you wash a car, every time you change the oil, every time you sell a sign, your labor costs will have to be taxed. And that's just one more layer that sounds good when you have a state that's $83 billion in debt. But once again, it's a job killer and it's a small business killer, because how you will make your ends meet is you'll have that one less employee to pay all those additional fees. Some of the states do things differently with school taxes, for example. Instead of keeping them local, is they have a statewide sales tax. Once again, it's just taking it out of one pocket, putting it in the other. It's kind of a balance that happens at every government, and I applaud all the mayors up here. They've all cut back. They've all taken the challenge and done that. I don't think the state's done that, and I think the state has to do more of that. Our bureaucracy needs to change, just like your small government has done that too. But I really want to alert you to, that's why I'm taking down all these facts, because when I'm sitting in a committee, and I could use your help, by the way, if you get more of these, when I'm sitting in a committee and they're talking about, oh, we'll just charge a service tax, it's just on, when you get your hair cut, pay an extra, pay a 5% tax on that. I want to be able to tell them that in order for you to pay your property taxes, you have to wash 7,000 cars. I need to put like a personal face on my arguments, and that's what I'm hoping, even after this summit, that we're able to do with other business owners too. It's compelling. It's an argument that comes to every person that lives in Illinois can relate to that. And of course everyone downstate is going, my God, you wash 7,000 cars a year. They'd be surprised at that number. It affects the little things that we do in Springfield affect you drastically, and they affect whether you have 10 employees or whether you have 5 employees. And unfortunately what happens is we all end up paying more in our unemployment tax, our unemployment fees, because you've had to let 2 people go. It just doesn't make sense. We're getting farther and farther behind. So whatever you can do to give me facts like that, that's great. It's very helpful, because it's coming, believe me, because we have a state that doesn't want to stop spending. And the only thing that's saving us right now is the fact that leadership in our state can't borrow any more money, because banks won't let us borrow any more money. So that's how bad things are, and to turn it around, it's going to happen a little by little, but whatever you can give me to stop any kind of additional tax would be very, very helpful. Thanks.
I can give you a little more along the same line of what you're talking about, Sandy, and that is a year ago we had 5 employees at the wash. We're now down to 3, and we've had a discussion about possibly letting another one go, because there's not enough to do for them. We just can't afford to keep them. And we don't pay big bucks. So another thing along the same thing of downstate and our governor, you probably remember that the governor had the bright idea that we ought to have, and it gets into what you were talking about, the service tax, that there ought to be a 7% tax on all of your revenue, not profit, all of your revenue. Well, being in the auction business, we average about a 10% take, and out of that 10%, we got to pay all of our employees, our advertising, and all the rest. If they took 7% off of the top, now that business is in trouble. Fortunately, some people went to bat. I credit the National Federation of Independent Businesses for going to bat on that, but it's people like yourself that understand what it's like, that have to carry the message back, and I'm glad to see you doing that.
Are there any other points you would like to make from this side? Not at this time. Legislators, is there anything else you would like to add on this topic or rebut it? This is such meaningful dialogue, because right in this dialogue on this particular question was a request for help to help ourselves. Let's keep that in mind. Moving along, our third question, before we open it up to the floor, and this is going to be for the legislative panel. We're going to discuss ways that you're working to improve transportation in our area, where and why that will help to improve businesses in the Round Lake area, and are there other projects that you would like to see happen as far as transportation goes?
Well, this one we're going to have to probably rely on Rich to answer this question, because obviously most of the businesses that we have on our street is on the same street as Mare Hill. We're a small community. All our businesses are on two streets, Rollins and Fairfield. So right now we don't have too many traffic issues there. The roads are good. We're all happy. We're just waiting for, obviously, hopefully some businesses to come in on the open land that we have there. But I'm going to refer this question, obviously, to Mare Hill.
In Haynesville, our major roads are either controlled by IDOT or Lake County DOT. We have Route 120, which is Illinois Department of Transportation. So very frustrated, quite frankly. The board and our engineering firm consultant have worked very diligently to communicate with IDOT on road improvements. And of course, we've also participated in the Blue Ribbon Advisory Council, and a few months ago went on a trip down to the Tollway Authority and presented the plan and begged them to do the Route 53 120 enhancement. And so I promised them that I would be persistently, pleasantly, but persistently pursuing them on that avenue. And so I continue to do so. Lake County DOT is a lot closer. It's right in our backyard. So they're very cooperative. And of course, because Haynesville Road, again, meets with IDOT, they have to also work with IDOT. One of the plans that we would like to see done is Haynesville Road is supposed to go through eventually. And again, that's a county road. But minimally, we would like to try to do a municipal improvement to improve that intersection of 120 and Haynesville Road, get the other turn lanes put in, and this would improve access to both Russo Power Equipment and the strip mall there where the Bento Cafe and Firestone businesses. So that is what we can do, because we don't have direct control over those streets. Another thing that we do for residents, and I just want to advocate while we're here, is, you know, we do have a PACE bus service. We also have PACE call and ride, and we've recently been doing some sessions at our village hall on this to make homeowners, people living in our apartments, much more aware that this is available to them. You can get out of your house, you can get to local businesses, you can get to your doctor's appointments, and if we can increase the usage on this, then we might also get more consistent routes or added service. So I encourage everyone to please promote the PACE bus service as well.
I'll try to mention, stack a little bit first. Try to mention also a little bit about Rollins Road, but first of all, as everyone said, most of our major roads are controlled either by the state or by the county. We have Fairfield, Cedar Lake Road, Haynesville Road, Rollins Road are all county roads, so the 5-lane roads, and also Route 83, which is a state road. Route 83 we've been working on for years and years and years with the state trying to have them put that in their budget. They finally put it in for a phase 1 engineering study to make it 5 lanes from Lakeville all the way to Libertyville. But the phase 1 engineering, that could take a couple of years, and there's still no funding at all to actually do the work. So I'm not expecting that to happen anytime soon. Lake County DOT has been much better. They've made a real turnaround in the last 10 years. Lake County DOT used to be very difficult to work with. Now they understand that the people that are their residents, are our residents. We share common residents. We need to work together to get these things accomplished. I've been very happy with what they've done as far as Route 83 and Rollins Road corridor. They took the time, they met with us time and time again. We keep on saying, no, we need this, no, we need that. And they got very creative and they worked very hard to come back with a plan that would work for the community and the businesses. One of the major things that they're doing when they decide to improve Rollins Road Route 83 next year is they're going to put a temporary road in. It's going to be southeast of where it is right now. Rollins Road will go south where it is. It'll be open all the time. Route 83 will go a little bit east of where it is. The intersection will be in the parking lot right where the bank is right now in Romney Commons Shopping Center. So they will be able to keep those roads open. So if they didn't, the traffic flow on the other arterial roads would really be a nightmare. We're very glad they're able to do that. It's just too bad the state doesn't spend enough money up in Lake County. I know, again, nothing against you, Sandy. You've worked very hard trying to get that change. There's an old formula that we've used for years and years and years on how to break up the money and spread it around the county, around the state, and we get shortchanged year after year after year. And nobody else wants to give that money up, so I don't think we'll ever see that money come to Lake County, even though we're not getting our fair share back. A lot of the arterials we've tried to improve. Clarendon Road, all the way from Cedar Lake Road to Haynesville Road, has all been completely redone over the last couple of years. We connected Orchard Drive from Rollins all the way to Montville. Years ago, there used to be two little short segments there. There was a patch in the middle that was owned by someone else. The village bought that and it made it a thoroughfare all the way through, so you could have another way besides jumping into the middle of downtown. The Rollins Road and Route 83 business corridor is probably going to be the biggest. As I said earlier, the drop in Rollins Road about 20-25 feet. To go underneath the railroad tracks, they're going to widen it. You'll see double turn lanes in all directions. When that's done, the old Walmart shopping plaza in Mallard Creek there, I think you'll see blossom very quickly. Right now, they're going to go through a very poor phase over the next couple of years. I wish there was a way around that, but there isn't. The county and the state and the village did take time to meet with all the business owners, have them come in. We met right here several different times, showed them what was going to happen, the time frame was going to happen, tried to offer them assistance if they wanted to relocate to other places in Round Lake Beach, and several of them did that. There's some that right now we're working on being bought out by the state because their buildings have got to come down in order for those roads to be widened. Originally, there was supposed to be, I think, another 4 or 5 businesses that were going to have to go, but again, working with the county and the state, they were able to redesign them enough so they could leave those buildings alone and not have to take all those down. So that was very exciting. Just on another note for transit, the trains in town. Years ago, the Metro opened up in Round Lake Beach here, which is great. Unfortunately, the train horns were a pain for the residents, especially trying to sleep at night. We worked with several other communities along this route, and we were able to get quiet zones installed through here. So you don't have those trains blowing at night, blowing their horns. Unless there's an emergency, then of course they will blow their horns. But that was a great benefit, I think, to all of our residents, not only in Round Lake Beach, because those train horns carry for miles and miles and miles on a nice clear night. If anyone has any specific questions, again, I'll answer those.
Well, that's tough to follow. Mayor Hill's been very helpful with trying to convince IDOT that a number of projects need additional state dollars in order to kind of meet with the businesses. The work that went together in a very intergovernmental way, including with the railroad, was very difficult to work with. The federal government also came in project. That Rollins Road project is going to be fabulous. It's going to be probably one of the best things we've done in Central Lake County in a long time. He did mention that Lake County is a donor county. We donate more money to the state for roads than we ever get back. I think we get back maybe 30% of the dollars we send based on motor fuel sales taxes. But what happens is we're in District 1, which is the same district as the city of Chicago. So all the collar counties in Lake County actually compete with the city of Chicago for those IDOT dollars. And I don't think I have to be too facetious to sit here and say we're competing with the leadership in Springfield to get IDOT dollars. And that's why we get as the little that we do. It just takes the tenacity of each one of the mayors in the county to keep at IDOT, I know my office does. We're constantly talking. I get meetings with IDOT all the time in Springfield. I would really like to move forward the 120 bypass project. I would like to say I think the 53 project kind of muddies the water there. But what's happening now with the toll authority is they're behind and their estimates for the Jane Addams Tollway, which is Route 90, as you all know. That's over budget. It's not even started yet. The DuPage bypass that's going to go in, they think they didn't budget enough. So with that last toll increase, they based the last toll increase on what they thought those projects would cost, and now they're coming in. They're anticipating a lot more. I would rather not concentrate on the next toll increase. I'd rather concentrate on a project which I think is doable, and the 120 bypass is. We need to fight for that. We need to say, you know what, toll authority, you go do your other projects that you've already budgeted for that are over budget, and for the state, for the IDOT, give us this one road that we really desperately need. And I think if we work together, we can get the 120 bypass project, which is desperately needed. I think that would help Haynesville a lot. It certainly would help going farther west out towards the Ingleside area and out towards Fox Lake.
I'd like to also take just a moment to introduce to you Mayor Jean McHugh from Round Lake Park.
Number one, I have to apologize for being late. 2 months ago when I was asked about this, I was told it was at 7 o'clock. So I never looked any further at the emails other than what came as to what we were speaking about. So I do apologize for walking in late, and I hope I don't say anything that people have said before. As far as the transportation, in Round Lake Park we have one major route with businesses on it. There are a few other businesses on Washington Street. Washington Street, as I understand it, will finally be widened in 2013. They are coming through with the final approval now. That will help people, not so much in Round Lake Park, but the people in Round Lake Park to travel to other towns to shop, which I have a hard time saying, but it does help the whole community, and that's what's important. So that will be widened. On 134, we have currently, actually last fall, put in sidewalks to help our residents in the Timber Creek Trailer Park, residents in Round Lake Park, either go west to the metro station, go east to the shopping in downtown Round Lake Park, for those that don't have the transportation to drive. We will be starting our next phase of that in the next 10 to 12 days, where they will be replacing all the sidewalks in the old shopping area in Round Lake Park. And we hope that that helps the businesses down there to attract more business to them. I had gone to Fremont Township and Wakanda Township meeting the other day because Round Lake Park is part of Fremont Township down in Saddlebrook. PACE has initiated a Northwest demonstration dial ride. Currently, those dial rides will go from the Wakanda area, the Fremont Township area, and they will connect at CLC and at Gurney Mills. Hopefully, if this goes in the future, those people can make those connections and come back to the Round Lake area if they don't have their own transportation. PACE does have many routes on Route 134, and I see many, many people using them, whether it be to go to the College of Lake County or to shop on the northern end of town. I just hope that they keep some of their tax dollars in our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next half of this question is going to go to the business panel. And are there areas of transportation issues or concerns that affect your business? And if so, how? And what would you offer as a constructive idea towards a solution for those issues or concerns?
The Washington expansion is a bit of a problem for us, but because they're basically planning on taking, I think, 20 feet, like 25 feet of our frontage of our restaurant. And the strange thing is that the assessor came in about 6 months ago to talk about it with us and never came back, and no one's come back, and no one has said another word to us. And we have made a phone call to find out, obviously this is going to affect the restaurant immensely, and the sign company because of how the turning lane is and everything. It just affects our corners so severely that, honestly, we don't really know where the business is going to be at that point, but no one has even contacted us again to let us know what's going on. Nothing. We've been completely left in the dark, and it's so disheartening because now I'm hearing from the mayor that we're going to be It's starting in 2013, and we have no clue. And 2013 is going to be here like in a blink of an eye, and we're not even like there. Nothing was even spoken to us. No one's telling us what's going on or nothing. And I just think that's crazy, because if they're going to take our property, how are they going to take that? We just don't even know what's with the process. So I'd like, if I could ask, anyone, any of you, to find out for us, so that maybe they could let us know what's going on. I would really appreciate it.
They have to buy that property, they just can't take it, so
Exactly.
they have to negotiate with you.
And then
I can't
it
believe they're talking
kind of
about it.
scared me when she said, they're planning this in 2013. I'm thinking, whoa, what?
It's October,
It's-
2013 is 3 months.
Yeah, it's like, where are we at with this? It kind of made me nervous. Because
Do you mind if I ask we have a county board member sitting out there, and I just have a quick question. Does the county have quick take powers? The county didn't have quick take powers when I was on there, but I don't think they do. So, yeah, they don't. Rich would know because of the Rounds Road project. So they have to talk to you. You might want to talk to, you have a county board member out there, and I think you have 2 candidates for county board out there. You might want to talk to them after the meeting, because
which one wants to talk to me? We'll get to that in just a bit, if we can move on.
Well, I think everyone agrees, public transportation's been brought up a few times, and I think everyone agrees that it benefits municipalities and businesses and everything else, but the thing I caution about is everyone in the state of Illinois, a portion of their tax dollars goes to fund public transportation in Chicago, which does absolutely nothing for us, and it's been so mismanaged for so many years that they're insulting. They're not profitable. And it's not that they're supposed to make a profit, but they should be able to sustain themselves, and they can't. And that everybody in Illinois is paying for one small area of public transportation. And the more public transportation expands out here, if people don't look at that, then it's going to affect us all even more, because it's going to have to be sustained. And there's some towns and townships and villages that have had buses put up to help seniors and people get around. And some of them have expanded, and some of them have stopped. They've discontinued the service because of the expense involved in doing it. And other people have picked up the ball and expanded their programs. But nonetheless, it basically all boils down to funding and money. Whether it be the RTA, Metro, whatever it is, it all comes down to the almighty dollar. And if it's not managed properly, we're all going to be affected. And if Chicago's costing us money now, if the programs out here expand and they're not managed properly, someone's going to have to pay for that. And it's going to affect everybody. So I would just encourage everyone to keep an eye on that, because even if you're at a municipal level, it's going to affect everybody in the long run. So just to keep in mind.
I don't have a lot to say on that. I do have a question for Mayor Hill that you might. How do you think that the construction down at the corner of 83 and Rollins will affect businesses over where we are there? I know at one time here a couple months ago, I listened to a presentation where we talked about the possibility that it would cut down or stifle business for a while. And I don't know if I can live through another reduction. This time of the year especially, when should that start?
The actual construction is supposed to start in June of 2013. They're going to start probably pretty soon moving installing new ComEd high tension poles temporarily down Mallard Creek Drive over to Cook to get around from the area to move them out of the construction area completely. And then they'll start to do the bids in March or April of next year, and the construction full phase will start in June. They'll probably take down some business buildings, some houses that are in the way before that point. Raleigh Beach actually has to move a water main and some other infrastructure. It's going to cost us $11 million for that project, which we will definitely pay. We have to pay that. But it's a benefit to all of our residents in the long run to do so. As far as it's going to affect your business, way down where you're at, I wouldn't think so much. I couldn't tell you for sure where you're getting most of your business, but I would think a car wash is the majority is a local business. People have to come from Gurnee and drive out here to use your car wash.
Yeah, you're right, the majority of it does come locally, but we do get customers from Grays Lake, which is very surprising. We also get people that come over from McHenry, And I don't think that would stop them. I don't know why they come here, other than they're not happy with the service they get over there. But those that come from Grays Lake would have a hard time getting to us, I guess. The other thing is, local people might be more diverted past our place if they go down Orchard to get to places like Walmart. So I don't know. It might help. If we can make it through a winter is when we do the best business, of course. Summer is always bad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and as you just said, Orchard, whether it's good or bad, it's become a customer road to get from Rollins over Monteville, because of the Walmart over there. And when you see the construction going on, whether it's going to be a smooth sailing through there or not, a certain majority of people are going to decide to go elsewhere. They're not going to take that route because they don't want to do what ifs. What if they have to move in a crane? What if anything else is happening? They have to stop for 5 minutes. So you're probably going to see a 20-25% reduction in traffic through that corridor. Now, where you're at, though, I doubt to see very little, if any, actual reduction.
I hope you're right.
A few people farther west might decide to take Sioux Lake Road over to Washington, all that's coming into construction too, or maybe all the way to 120 if, in fact, their destination's in that direction ultimately. I certainly don't expect that shopping plaza right at 83 and Rollins Road to probably see a 25% hit in their sales, only because, again, people aren't going to go there unless they have to. That's the problem with the road construction. One of the stores I work for is in Libertyville, and they're doing a major reconstruction of Route 137 and 21 right now. And we've seen our sales drop 25%. And this is the beginning phase of the construction. Again, the first week or so, people still come through, they muddle through it. They find some other way to get around that then, so they don't have to go through there. If they're not driving by there, they're not going to stop on the way home to pick up that sledgehammer, lawnmower, grass seed, whatever it might be from our stores. And you face the same problem to a certain degree, but probably a lot less. I think you're far enough removed from the actual corner there. You might see a small decline. I guess time will tell.
It's improvements like this, no matter where you're at, it's a two-edged sword, I guess. You got to live through it, and it gets better once you finish it.
Absolutely.
I just want to add that with all the construction projects that will be starting next June of 2013, you can hope for a lot of dust and a lot of dirty cars.
I like the way
And
you
we'll
think.
send them your way.
I love the ingenuity. Okay, so that's going to actually conclude the questions that we have for these panels that we've prepared. Now,
So I just want to respond to something that John said earlier here. He talked about the CTA in Chicago sucking a lot of the money. And several years ago, we had the Lake County Municipal League held a forum here with state and local legislators. And one of our state senators actually said they had just finished passing that 0.5% tax on our sales tax everywhere in the county here. He had said that, okay, it's only 0.5%, you guys should feel lucky this time. You get to keep half of that money, only half is going to Chicago. And everybody in the room kind of sat back and they couldn't believe they heard that from a Lake County legislator saying we can keep half of our money and only half goes to Chicago. So that's what we're facing down in Springfield.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah, my biggest concern about that whole thing is that, more people are traveling throughout the county to do different things, and maybe not necessarily to Chicago as much, which I think is subsidized as well, but the more they're traveling around the county and the more those services are used, if they're not self-sustaining, it's going to require more funding to do that. We're all going to be impacted by that. And I'm not against public transportation. It's obviously very important and it's an asset to a lot of people. But if you're benefiting some people and it's hurting everybody else in the long run, it's not being managed properly, so it needs to be looked at so it doesn't get to that point.
okay, so we have some questions from you people out there. And some of them are kind of interesting, and a couple of them are actually amusing. So I'm going to start with a rather amusing one because it just sort of got my fancy. So Jack, for Big Jacks, how many Italian beefs does it take that you have to sell to pay your taxes?
No, I was thinking hot dogs. I was thinking hot dogs, but I gotta get these, I wanted to do the wrong number out. But I'll get back to it.
But I'm sure it's a lot.
For sure, I'll email everyone, let them know the number. I really want to know.
No, I never did, but I'm going to do it that way.
Yeah. Okay, next question, and I'm assuming someone on the side is actually going to have the answer to this. Does the Route 83 Rollins project is it going to have a bypass?
It's going to have a temporary road. It'll go south and east of the current road. Rollins Road will go through Gateway Park and cross south of where it is right now, across the railroad track, across 83. 83 will go and actually into the Rollins Commons parking lot, and there will be a bridge set up temporarily where the current Rollins is. There will be a bridge from Rollins Commons parking lot over the Jewel parking lot. The cars will go across that bridge until they get to the point where the roads are dug sufficiently and paved sufficiently. They can take that bridge out and then take the banks down around it and cut the rest of the area down and finish it. But yes, there will be, I guess, a hollow bypass on a temporary basis because of the railroad, yes.
Next question is, how does the TIF districts help our communities or hurt them?
I think I'm the only one in the TIF district.
I did suspect that.
Raleigh Beach first had TIF districts going back to the 1970s. So when the Walmart first came to town, 1978 I believe it was, way before I was on the board. Back then the state of Illinois also kicked in part of their sales tax the state got, and that made the TIF district really valuable. With that TIF district, they were able to fund the infrastructure for that shopping plaza. They were also able to do a lot of the roads and sewer work just south of Rollins Road in the neighborhood over there. And that TIF district was so successful that we were able to create a second TIF district in the residential neighborhoods. Now everyone talks about residential neighborhood being bad for TIFs and access schools, and they're right, if that's what it truly is. What we did is we made a contiguous TIF district. We made a contiguous TIF district, so we were able to transfer funds from TIF district number 1 to TIF district number 2, and use that money to also go in and do water, sewer, road projects. We spent about $35 million in the last 15 years alone improving the roads. And the roads in Raleigh Beach in that section were so bad, you couldn't just pave over them. There was no foundation. A lot of those roads were just the asphalt put on top of dirt. They had to go down and dig a foot down, put a good solid base on, put a coarse layer of asphalt and a final asphalt on top. We also did water mains, completely redid those, and we patched the sewers wherever they needed that. Again, huge money, and it was all to benefit the residents. Now the best part of TIF district number 2 is that we held harmless all the other taxing bodies. The school district, the fire department, the park district, anyone else that was a taxing body got their money in the end on that. What would happen is every year the county would collect all the real estate taxes in their big pot. They'd say, okay, this is how much is surplus. You guys do what you want with it. We'd say, okay, cut a check to the school district for, in fact, Raleigh County School District, I think the last check we got was over $1 million from that TIF district for 1 year. Again, the schools were 2/3 of the money that came in, so they got 2/3 of the money going back out. It was over $2 million in the increased assessed taxes because of that TIF district. And that, in my opinion, that's one of the things that helped save the Raleigh County School District, because otherwise it would not have had that increase. The work that we did in those TIF districts increased those assessed valuations because it created a nice neighborhood to live in. You'd be surprised when you put a brand new road in, how people suddenly take a little more pride in their neighborhood. They will cut their grass, they'll paint their house, they'll fix it up, they'll add a garage. We saw so much construction going on in those areas, even vacant lots that were vacant would be infilled then. And again, anything that was extra like that, the schools got their money, so they weren't harmed at all by that TIF district. Our third TIF district is over Meadowgreen subdivision. That's a townhouse subdivision built back in the 80s. It was going into decay very quickly. The homeowners association came to the village and said, we don't know what to do. Can you guys help us? Well, they were a very good board at that time. They stood up. They said, we have a problem, let's address it. We looked at the village, and we said, well, we can take some of the infrastructure you guys have. Well, we tipped the area right there. We can stop the slide of the values. Because at that point, the values every year were going down, down, down. So the school district actually, by stopping the slide, they saved money.
Them to adopt policies. I have served in the past. I've served on the Grace Lake Central Athletic Booster Club. I've served on various PTO organizations over the years, and I, along with other people that were board members, were advocates, and we made it part of just our rules. It was rather informal since we were a volunteer organization, but we do have bylaws to say there's value and merit to buy local and not just by price point, because the way we looked at it was you're putting that money back to the taxpayer that is paying taxes that's ultimately going to the school district. So when you phrase it that way to them, it finally clicks. You know, everybody is so price point conscious, and it's like, well, online I can get it for 95 cents a piece. If I buy it from, you know, Joe down the street, it's $1.50, you know. But there's a value there that says, hey, you're not going to have to be trying to do so much fundraising. So I think we all have a job to do to keep spreading that message and getting more people to adopt those kind of policies. Because community businesses, but also the government, the schools, it's all intergovernmental cooperation. You know, the municipalities should work with the schools, the local businesses, and we should all work together and support each other.
If I could just comment on that a little bit too. I don't think a lot of people realize that the hand that feeds them might be the business that they support down the street, especially in the case of schools. So I think that's a very important point that they all need to be aware of. The other thing is that in my case, more business is about the only thing. You look at it, there are two things you can do. You can cut expenses or you can increase revenue. Well, I've cut everything I can cut right down to bare bones. Everything that I could think of, and my employees, and we all get together and talk about that. The other thing would be to increase revenue. Well, I don't know what else we can do to increase revenue, but you gave me an idea a minute ago, Mayor Soto, when you talked about schools and fundraisers and so on. We're always open to do fundraisers at our car wash. We might not necessarily make money on that, but there's a ripple down or trickle down that some people come there because their granddaughter Susie talked them into coming there for their car wash, and they kind of liked it and they come back again. It's small, but it's the same thing as what you're talking about. You don't see a big return from shopping locally, but there's some portion of it that comes back to you. So fundraisers, that we're always open to do that kind of thing for schools and cheerleaders, booster clubs, whatever. Just wanted to throw that out there.
They did something in Arlington Heights a few years back because there was a huge, the sign companies went crazy. They did all their downtown signage and hired somebody out of Wisconsin, and we all went crazy. And they realized their mistake. I mean, of course, we'll never forgive them for it, but they actually had an event of how vendors will know how to get into the schools or get into the villages so that they could, you know, be on their purchasing department's list and all that good stuff. And honestly, I mean, it did make a difference. I mean, I'm not as present in Arlington Heights as much as I used to be, but you know, it could really carry out in these villages too. I mean, I would be willing to sit in on a meeting with the purchasing departments in all the villages or the schools and find out how to work with them. I mean, I guess it comes down to the fact that if we could, like, since we're using the schools as an example, like, or the park districts or whatever it is, like, if they get it online, we get it. But come back to us. Maybe we could squeeze, I mean, like, you know, we want it that bad, let's put it that way. Like, we really want the business. And we give you so much more because we care about what you're ordering. They don't even know who you are. And that's why it's like, if we can have, I guess it's we need to start relationships. I think that's the problem, is that there's no relationships. And maybe if we could start relationships between businesses again, because honestly, there's not that many businesses in the area as much as there used to be. So we kind of have to depend on municipalities.
And that's actually a key thought that I wanted to bring up for all of you too. And the two key words we've gotten so far this evening is cooperation and relationships, and how important